Our shir this morning and our shiurim this month are dedicated by Sammy Malka Esterson. I don't want to have to close down the Rugelach station back there, but I will if I have to. They didn't even hear me. They didn't even hear me. That's how. So our shir this morning is dedicated by the Esterson family in commemoration of the yahrzeits of their parents, Ludwig Stiefel, Yitzchak Leib ben Aaron Akoin, and Hinda Esterson, Hinda Bas Hanach Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an aliyah, and the family Eina Chama. All right, we'll say with that, let's begin. It's amazing to realize that we are coming to the last few dapim of Menachos Menachos. Today's dap is Kuf Zayin. A thank you to Yehuda for giving the shir yesterday. And we are picking up at the two dots on Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph 107a. So we're picking up, the Gemara says, Harei Alai Zav. So remember again, the Mishnah spoke about a variety of different cases, really regarding situations where a person goes there and commits to take upon himself to give something to the Beis HaMikdash. And so we're trying to figure out, in the absence of qualifying the exact amount that he's going to give, what is the minimum amount which he is liable ultimately to contribute. So the Mishnah said, Harei Alai Zav, lo yivchos midinar zav. If a person goes in and says, Harei Alai Zav, I hereby commit upon myself to go ahead and give zav, he should not give less than a dinar, which is a coin of zav. So I have a Dilma Naska. So the Gemara says, how do you know that when he says Harei Alai Zav, maybe he's not talking about a coin? He says, it's Chaticha Achas Shel Zav. Maybe he's pledging to give a small little gold nugget, right? He's pledging to give a little bit of gold. Lav dafka a coin, but just simply some amount of gold. To which the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Elazar de Amar Matbeya. Rabbi Elazar says because the case is where he says Matbeya shel zav, is where he's going ahead and he's saying a coin of gold. So once he says a coin of gold, so then the halacha is he's obligated to go ahead and give the smallest unit of coinage, which ultimately is a dinar. V'dilma priti, but that's not true. A pruta is the smallest amount of coin. Maybe he's committing to give himself. Maybe he's committing upon himself to give a pruta of zav. We'll say Amra Papa. Priti Davala Avdi Inshi. They did not coin golden prutos, which I will say, if you think about it as a logical idea, obviously, remember again, we're dealing with a system of currency where the value of the currency is actually actively tied in to the amount of the precious metal used in the coinage. They weren't making golden pennies. They weren't making golden prutos. So instead, again, the smallest denomination ultimately, again, of gold was a dinar. So therefore, again, we'll say, interestingly enough, if a person were to say, Harei Alai Zav, it could very well be that they're not obligated to give themselves, to give a coin, but rather, again, some amount of gold. But as the Gemara qualifies it as saying, the case here is Harei Alai Matbeya Zav. So if a person says Matbeya Zav, the smallest amount of golden coinage that a person will be obligated to give is a dinar. Good. Kasef lo yivchos midinar. Similarly, again, if a person says Harei Alai Kasef, I pledge upon myself to give silver, he does not give less than a dinar of silver. V'doma naska. Sigma is the same kasha. Maybe he's not pledging coinage at all, but rather maybe he's going ahead and just pledging some amount of actual just silver. Rabbi Elazar d'Amar Matbeya. Both say same answer. The case is where he's saying Harei Alai Matbeya Kesef. I'm pledging to go ahead and give a matbeya of silver. V'doma priti. Maybe he's pledging upon himself to give silver pruta. We're dealing with a place where we'll say where the locale, the nature of the currency in this particular location is that they did not have silver prutos. Good. Nechoshes lo yivchos mima kesef. We'll say if a person pledges to give copper, to give nechoshes, so the halacha is he does not give less than a ma'az kesef, a silver ma'az worth of nechoshes. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, lo v'yivchos mitzinura ketana shel nechoshes. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says a little bit differently. He says that if you pledge to give nechoshes to the Beis HaMikdash, you do not give less. Literally, tzinura ketana means a small fork. If you look at Rashi, bitzinura katan, it's the first short line. Mazlei katan. Literally, again, a small fork. So if you pledge to give copper to the Beis HaMikdash, you do not give less than a small fork's worth of copper. Says the Gemara, Lemay chazya, what do people use a small copper fork for? So Rabbi, shemechatetin ba psilos u'mekanchin ba neros. We'll say, amazing. in Yana Dioma, right? Today, right? This is we're exactly a week away. A week from today is Erev Chanukah. So I'll say, so what would you use a small copper fork for? Everyone knows what you use a small copper fork for. Shemechatatin bapsilos. The Rabbi say, in the event, if you look at Rashi, mechatatin ma'pilin rosha psila kishu saruf. If the top of the wick becomes burnt, and you need to therefore go and adjust the wick to be able to, kind of take off the top of the wick and bring out another part of it, they would use that copper fork. Or mekanche baneros. You would clean out the bulbs. Rashi says, "Mechanchin boneros shal menorah me'afra shebesocha." When you wanted to get the schmutz out of the menorah, either the leftover wicks or the leftover oil, you would go ahead and you would use this copper fork to remove it. Good. Barzel. But say this is amazing. So what happens if a person pledges barzel, a person pledges iron to the Beis HaMikdash? So we'll say the interesting part is, obviously, if you qualify the amount, I'm giving 5 pounds of iron, okay. But in the absence of a qualification, we're trying to figure out how much are you obligated to give. So if I pledge iron, Tanya, Achirim we'll say this is actually amazing. Lo yifchos mikalia orev. Mikalia orev. We'll say, so if you pledge iron and you don't qualify, you shouldn't give less. We'll say, Kalia orev literally means a raven destroyer. This is not a football term, right? But again, so what, right? No, good, I don't know. Okay, good. So, who's beating each other up today? Who's up against each other? Oakland. Okay, good. Good, everybody should be matzliach. So we'll say, so listen to this. Lo yifchos mikalia orev. So we'll say, listen to this. So you don't give less than a raven destroyer. What's a raven destroyer? Vikama. Amar Yosef Amal. What is this talking about? This is actually incredible detail. Look at Rashi. Kalya Oref Masmoros Chadin Tochvim Berosh Gag HaHechal. I will say, if you ever look at the images of the Beis HaMikdash, so if you'll notice again, if you look at the top of the Heichal, so it appears that at the edge, right? So the way the Beis HaMikdash was structured, the second base we're talking about, there's like a cornice, like a decorative rim on the edge. And there, if you look at it, there were triangles across the top of the roof line. Those were not decorative triangles. Those were utilitarian triangles that are actually made of razor-sharp metal. For what purpose? They don't want birds settling on the top of the basement. The Shabbos say, if you'll notice, by the way, anytime you go to Eretz Yisrael, you always hear the footsteps of Mashiach. But if you ever look at the movable Aronei Kodesh that they have by the Kosel, so you'll notice again, they have metal wires protruding from the top of it. So why do they have metal wires? That's not for Wi-Fi, right? Why do they have metal wires right protruding on the top? Well, so that's because they don't want birds settling on top of the Aronei Kodesh by the Kosel. So we'll say, so that's like so just if you want to close your eyes and imagine a little bit like what the Beis HaMikdash is. So again, those metal wires are to prevent the birds. You don't want the birds relieving themselves or even just settling on top of their Kodesh. Less, of course, not the Beis HaMikdash either. So therefore, again, if a person goes ahead and pledges metal, barzel, iron to the Beis HaMikdash, how much do they have to give? Enough for one of these raven destroyers. And how much is that, Rabbi says the Gemara? So, Amrav Yosef, Amma al Amma. It's 1 Amma by 1 Amma of metal. That's the amount. So again, we'll say an unqualified metal or iron donation to the Beis HaMikdash is an Amma by Amma of metal. So the Gemara says, Igadamri, there's just an alternate version of this same discussion. Lo yifchos mi amma al amma, that if a person pledges iron to the Beis HaMikdash, they should not contribute less than an amma by amma. What is an amma by amma? Lamai chazya. What can you use an amma by amma of metal for? Amrav Yosef lakalya orev. You can use it ultimately again for the raven destroyer. Good. We'll say, good. So now we've closed out this sugya, although we haven't really closed it out. We're going to see, we'll say in general, we've closed out the first section of this discussion, which is, I'm going ahead and I'm making unqualified pledges. So we'll say, as we know, unqualified pledges always create a headache. They create a headache for the donator, and they create a headache for the institution, because now we have to try to figure out what exactly did the person actually mean. So continuing along that sugya, Harei ala yayin. What's that say? A person says, I hereby commit upon myself to go ahead and bring wine to the Beis HaMikdash. So look at Rashi, first Rashi in the Mishnah. Harei ala yayin linesachim. So we'll say, so in this case, I have pledged wine as a libation, as nisachim. What's the issue at hand? I have not articulated how much. How much wine am I giving? So it says the Mishnah, Rashi says, L'nesachim, So I'm sorry. Well, let's read the Mishnah. Harei al hayayin lo yifchos mishlosha lugin. So I will say, if you go ahead and you pledge wine as nesachim to the Beis Hamikdash, but you have not articulated how much wine, you don't bring less than 3 lugin. Where do we get 3 lugin from, Rabbi Osai? Because remember, 3 lugin is the minimum amount of wine that is brought as a nesach when you bring a keves. Remember, again, Rabbi Osai, we saw before, the 3 amounts we have are keves, ayil, para. So keves is the smallest amount, 3 lugin. So if you go ahead and you make a nesach donation, a nesach commitment to the Beis Hamikdash, the minimum amount of wine that you bring in a libational capacity is 3 lugin. So if you just say, qualify it, 3 lugin. Shemen, still again, about say, what happens if I go ahead and I donate shemen? So if you remember again, we saw before as to whether or not you can go ahead and bring shemen as a stand-alone carbon or not. So according to the opinion of Rabbi Tarfon, who says that you can, so shemen, lo yifchos milug, you should not bring less than a lug shemen. I will say, why a lug shemen? Where do we get that from? Because remember again, the minimum amount of flour for a mincha is how much? An isaron. And again, the minimum amount of oil that goes with an isaron of flour is a lug. So therefore, if you commit to bring a lug shemen, so the minimum amount that you're going to bring, if you commit to bring shemen, so the minimum amount that you're on the hook for is a lug. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Omer shlosha lugin. Rabbi says, no, in fact, halacha l'maisa, you are chayif to bring 3 lugin. Perashti, v'emiyodeh perashti. I will say, so what about in all of these cases, whether it's oil or wine, and I say, you know what? I know that I committed to bring oil and wine, and not only that, I know that I committed to bring what? To bring a certain amount. I just can't remember how much I committed to. So remember again, in the first case of the Mishnah, what I'm just saying is, I'm just making a statement of Harei alai yayin, Harei alai shemen. So we'll say in that case it's easy because essentially we say in the absence of committing to any particular amount, your default is what? The minimum. Your default is the minimum. So by wine, it'll be 3 lugin. By shemen, it's a machlokes. Is it 1 lug? Is it 3 lugin? The complicated case comes where a person says, Pirashti, I know that I articulated a particular amount. And I will say, once you say a particular amount, that by definition, we assume that means what? Something more than the minimum. So the interesting part is, once you admit that you've committed to something more than the minimum, but you don't know how much you committed to, by definition, you are bumped up to what? To the maximum. So we'll say, isn't this fascinating? So if you say, I just said shemen, I just said oil, I just said shemen, I just said yayin, fine, minimum. If you say perashti but I don't know what, so we're going to bump you up to the maximum. So we'll say, so what? This is amazing. So what is the maximum by oil? What is the maximum by shemen? Listen to this. So the Gemara says, Yavi kiyom miruba. We look at the maximum amount of oil or wine brought on a particular day in the Beis Hamikdash, and that is the amount that you are obligated to bring. So I'll say, so remember again, just to understand the logic is pirashti, once you say I've articulated something more than the minimum, and you don't know how much it is, the only way to cover yourself is to bring the maximum. You don't qualify your statement, it's yain or shemen, we could assume that means the minimum, and therefore you bring the minimum. Says the Gemara, both say, now what day that is we bring the maximum, we're going to see in the Gemara, is actually going to give. Just wait. You're going to see how exciting this is going to get. Tana Abanan. So we'll say, so let's analyze this. So remember again, this is actually the drasha we had last week. Ezrach, we'll say, so we darshan from the pasuk of Ezrach, Kala Ezrach yaseh kacha, es ela lahakriv ishe re'ech nichoach la'Hashem. Milamit, we'll say, from the drasha in that pasuk, which we spoke about last week, Milamit shemisnad v'nyayim. That teaches us that we have the ability to bring a karban nedava of wine. So we'll say, remember, we spoke about this? The chiddush over here is, nisachim are normally brought as a carbonic accessory. Right? You're bringing a primary carbon, you bring a secondary nesachim. From the drasha based on the pasuk of Ezrach, we learn that what? That you could even lechatchila bring nesachim, even not as an accompaniment to a carbon, but even as its own stand-alone carbon. That's the chiddush. So Ezrach, melamish nisnad v'in yayin. So from the pasuk of Ezrach, I learned that I can make a nedava from yayin, that I could bring a carbon nisachim on its own, even not as a carbonic accessory. They kama, and how much yayin do you have to bring? Shlosha lugin. 3 lugin, Abba say, that's the minimum amount for a carbon. But say, how do we know that if you want to bring more than 3 lugin, you bring more than 3 lugin? I might have thought that I could bring even less than 3 lugin. Talmud lomar kacha. So both say, so from this pasuk we darshan that halacha l'maisa, and again we saw this drasha last week. We darshan that you could bring a nesachim ultimately again as a carbon nedava. You could bring you can't bring less than 3 lugin, but you could bring more than 3 lugin. Good. Shemen lo yivchos min alog Rabbi omer shlosha lugin. We'll say when it comes to shemen. So Rabbi says, Tanakama says you can't bring less than a lug. Rabbi says you can't bring less than 3 lugin. So we'll say machlokes in the Mishnah. So remember, in this Mishnah, everyone's agreeing that you can bring a stand-alone carbon of shemen. That's what they're agreeing on, which was a machlokes in the previous Mishnah. And then once they agree that you can bring a stand-alone shemen carbon, the shaila, the machlokes is how much is the minimum amount of shemen that is brought. The Tanakama, the Rabbanan say 1 lug, Rebbe says 3 lugin. But what are they arguing about? So what's actually a fascinating machlokes? So we'll say the rabbis said before Papa the following. They're arguing actually, interestingly enough, on an exegetical principle. Bidon mine umina, bidon mina vu'uki ba'asra. So we'll say, come here, Fliggy. We're going to see this in just a moment. In general, we'll say there is this fascinating machlokes. When you are learning something out from another source. In other words, let's say I will say, I'm learning out B from A. So once I learn out B from A, do all the qualities of B have to resemble A? Or once I derive the derivative halacha of B from A, B is then free to learn out its additional halachos from other sources. So watch this. You're going to see it become clear in just a moment. Watch this. The Rabbanan Sarvi, the Rabbanan say, now remember, what are the Rabbanan? Let's keep the Shitas in mind. The Rabbanan hold that for Shemen, how much do you have to bring? 1 lug. Well, it's either 1 or 3. It's a 50-50, right? 1 lug, right? Rebbe is one who says 3. Right? So the Rabbanan say 1 lug. Where do they get it from? We'll say, watch this. Rabbanan Savri, dun mine umina. So we'll say, where do we learn out shemen from? So ma mincha misnadvin, af shemen nami misnadvin. We'll say, just like a mincha is brought as a carbon nedava, you can bring a mincha as a carbon nedava, so too shemen is brought as a carbon nedava. So we'll say, so I learn out the concept. Remember again, part of a carbon mincha is shemen, is oil. So just like mincha could be brought nedava, shemen can be brought as a nedava. Uma mincha belug, so we'll say just like mincha is a lug, af shemen belug. So too ultimately again, shemen is also brought with a lug. So we'll say, so now you see what's happening over here. So we'll say, so again, what's unfolding? This is don mina umine. So we'll say, so what you see over here is that the shemen, so remember again, mincha is brought as an adava, shemen which is brought as part of a mincha is also brought of an dava. Just like the shemen that comes with the mincha is a lug, so too when shemen is brought on its own, it's also brought with a lug, or I should say, it's also brought in the amount of a lug. The Rabbi Savar, Rabbi on the other hand holds, don mina umine. So I'll say that's called don mina umina. That's called when you learn out something. So again, I will say, understand what's happening over here. I'm learning out the ability to bring shemen, as voluntary offering, as an adava, from where? From mincha. Mincha could be brought as an adava, and so too shemen could be brought as an adava. Just like when shemen is brought as part of a mincha bin adava, how much shemen is brought? How much shemen? 1 lug. So too when shemen is brought on its own, it's also brought with 1 lug. Rabbi says, mina umine, don mina vu'uki ba'asra. So we'll say, watch this. Rabbi holds as follows. Ma mincha misnadvin, just like a mincha ultimately again is brought as a carbon nedava. Af shemen nami misnadvin, just like mincha could be brought as an adava, so too shemen, which is part of a mincha, also comes as an adava. Vu'uki ba'asra. Then I both say, once you establish, see the limud of shemen from mincha tells me that what? Just as mincha could be brought as an adava, so to what? So to what? Shemen could be brought as an adava. Okay, stop, pause. Now we've just established that shemen could be brought as an adava. If that's the case, v'uki basra. We'll say once you've established that mincha, that shemen can be brought as an adava, let's learn out the rest of the details of mincha from other cases of nesachim. Because we'll say essentially what you're doing is you're bringing shemen as its own carbon. Shemen as its own carbon no longer really resembles mincha. What does it resemble? What does it resemble? Nesachim. Why? We'll say I'm going to make you pay for the ragalach if you do not get, right? You do not have this. Again, a very simple, it's liquid. It's liquid. It's not complicated. It's liquid, right? Ultimately, again, you have shemen, which is a liquid. You have yain, which is a liquid. And therefore, again, halacha l'maisa, once I learn out the ability to bring shemen as an adava, I learned that out from mincha. Again, mincha could be brought as an adava. Shemen, which is part of mincha, could also be brought as an adava. But stop there. Now, once I establish that shemen can be brought as an adava, shemen no longer resembles mincha. Shemen resembles what? Yayin, right? And therefore, again, man nesachim shloshes lugin. Af shemen nami shloshes lugin. Just as shemen ultimately, again, just as yayin, or just as nesachim, is brought as 3 lugin, ultimately, again, shemen is brought as 3 lugin as well. So we'll say, see here, it's actually a fascinating machlokas. Everyone is agreeing on the derivative, right? The derivative, I should say, the source halacha for shemen being brought as a carbon adava is what? Mincha. Mincha, boss, I mincha. Again, I'll say, I know this is Daf Yomi, and you're relying on me to give you the information, but you must do some of the work. Right? So I will say, so again, the derivative ultimately, again, to bring shemen as a carbon nedava is mincha. So the shaila just is, and it's actually quite fascinating, is how far do we take this relationship between mincha and shemen? So the Rabbanan will say we take it the full way. You learn it out from mincha, and pretty much all of the halachos of shemen as nesachim, ultimately I learned that from mincha, to the point that just as shemen, when it's part of the mincha, how much shemen are you bringing? 1 lug. And therefore, again, even when bringing shemen on its own, you're only going to bring 1 lug. Rabbi, on the other hand, that's the opinion of the Rabban. Rabbi, on the other hand, says, no. Don minei v'uki ba'asra. All I use mincha for is to establish the concept that I could bring shemen as an adava. Once I get the concept, then what? The rest of the details of my minchas nedava, or I should say differently, the rest of the halachos of my shemen nesachim will be learned out from where? Other nesachim, from yayin. Just as yayin is 3 lug, ultimately again shemen will be 3 lug as well. Incredible. Says the Gemara, Amru Rapapa, say first wide line of Kavzainim Dav. Amru Rapapa, Imi Mincha Gamar La. So Imi Mincha Gamar La Rabbi. So I'll say if Rabbi is learning this out from Mincha, excuse me, the Kuli Amalo Pligi Don Mina Umina. Ultimately, again, I will say if that's the case, that we're learning it out from Mincha, everyone is going to agree that don mina umina, which means both what Rabbi say, learn out the concept that shemen could come as nesachim from mincha, and you're going to have to cap it as a log, because you can't, the mincha, the nadava of shemen could really be no greater than the place where it is derived from. So if it's derived ultimately again from mincha, and there's only a log of shemen used by mincha, if you're going to bring the shemen as nesachim, it could also only be a log. Rather, what the Gemara suggests is Ela Rebbe me Ezrach Gamerla. Maybe Rebbe ultimately learns it out from Ezrach. Rabbi will say he doesn't learn it out from mincha. Look at Rashi. Me Ezrach Gamerla ki hechid digaminan lael yayin. Hachanami Gamar Rebbe me Ezrach milamed shemisnadvin shemen v'dun minei kol nesachim shoshulugin. We'll say maybe Rebbe is really not learning it out from Mincha, but he's darshaning it out from Ezrach. We'll say, what did Ezrach teach us? That drasha taught me the ability to bring yayin, or nesa, right, nesachim, as a standalone carbon. Maybe that same drasha that teaches me that I can bring yayin as a standalone carbon also what? Teaches me that I could bring shemen as a standalone carbon as well. Oh, well, if that's the case, then I'll tell you that's what. Just like Ezrach teaches me that by yayin, how much yayin do I bring? 3 lugin. Excellent, right? So to again, I'm going to go ahead and bring for shemen 3 lugin as well. Amar le Rafuna b'Rav Nasan, l'Rav Papa, umi matis amritachi. Can you really go ahead and say this, right? can you really go ahead and halacha lemaisa, go ahead and say they learns out from Ezrach v'atanya, Karban, melamish misnadvin shemen. We'll say we learn out from the drush of Karban that you could go ahead and bring a Karban and dava from shemen, vikama, and how much ultimately shemen do you have to bring? So the Gemara says shloshes lugin. Man shamis leidamar shloshes lugin. We'll say who is the opinion who says that halacha lemaisa you go ahead and you bring shloshes lugin? Rabbi, vikamaisi le mikarban. Now we'll say here's the problem with this brisa. This brisa is wonderful because it tells me that what? That I'm going to bring, if I bring a Karban of shemen, I'm going to bring how much shemen? 3 lugin. There's only one problem, which is wrong pasuk. Wrong pasuk. Before we were telling you, we'll say, according to Rabbi, there are 2 possibilities as to how you're arriving at shlosha lugin, which is either from don minav uki basra, either an exegetical principle, which allows you to learn it out from mincha. But once you learn it out from mincha, it's no longer compared to mincha. Rather, what is it compared to? Other cases of Nesachim, just like other cases of Nesachim, so too Shemen is Nesachim, or it's a drasha from Ezrach. Here, I will say the Bryce is bringing a drasha from Karban and telling me based on Karban, I'm going to learn out from Shloshel. I'm going to learn out Shloshel Lugin. The problem is the conclusion is like Rabbi, but the limud is not like Rabbi. So the Gemara says, "Man shamis lei da'amar shloshes lugin." I will say, who is the opinion who says that a Karban of shemen gets 3 lugin? Rabbi. It's ultimately Rabbi. V'kamai sila me Karban, but he's learning it out from Karban. To which the Gemara says, "Amar le itanya tanya." If this is the version you have, then this is the version you have. So I will say, so bottom line, what's the halacha? The Rambam paskins, whether it is wine or whether it is oil, you are going to bring 3 lugin. So bottom line, halacha lemaisa, first of all, we established that you can bring independent nisachim, both of wine and of oil, and to keep things easy, anytime you are bringing nisachim, be it of wine, be it of oil, the halacha is you're going to bring 3 lugin. How are we getting to that conclusion? So the Nosei Kelim and the Rambam bring their own machlokim. How are you getting there? Is it based on don minava uki basra? Is it dependent on Karban? Is it dependent on Ezrach? Machlok is how you get there. But bottom line, all right, everyone arrives at the same point, which is Yipaskin like Rabbi, whether by yayin or by shemen, halocha lemaisa, shlosha lugin. Good. Perashti ve'eni odeh ma perashti. So listen to this. Maybe yavi kiyom ruba. So let's remember again. The extreme case was what? Well, let's say I know that I articulated that halacha lemaisa. I have to bring a certain amount of wine, a certain amount of oil. But what? What's the problem? I don't remember how much I pledged. So also remember again, in the absence of articulating, if just saying yayin shemen, how much do you have to bring? How much do you have to bring? Minimum. Right? Minimum. Again, no, this is just the case where I say, Harei alai yayin, Harei alai shemen. So we'll say, in the absence of any number attached to your neder, ultimately, again, minimum. We've established minimum is 3 lugin, right? By yayin and by shemen. But we'll say the problem over here is I've said, I articulated a certain amount. I said I'm going to bring a certain number of lugin of wine or a certain number of lugin of oil. There's only one problem, which is I don't remember how much. So we'll say the problem now is we can't kick you down to the minimum. Why? Why? Because we'll say one thing is clear: is when a person is articulating a number, it's almost absolutely certain that it wasn't the minimum. Because if it was the minimum, then what? Then you know you get a number, right? Once I'm articulating a number, it means I've gone above the minimum. Once I've gone above the minimum, and I don't know how much, there's only one choice that is available in order to go ahead and satisfy all the different possibilities, which is the next one. So I'll say, watch this. So the Gemara says, essentially, the only way to cover your bases is to bring the amount of oil and wine, and/or wine. I will say, remember again, we're assuming you're either pledging oil or wine. If you're pledging both, you're really in trouble, right? So I'll say, so interestingly enough, so we look at what is the maximum amount of wine or oil brought on any given day in the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says, what's that day? Tana? I'll tell you that day is Ki Yom Tov Harishon Shel Chag Shechal Yos B'Shabbos. And I'll say the day in which they brought the maximum number of lugin of oil or wine was when the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos. So we'll say, what's the amount of oil, amount of wine they brought? They brought a total, based on all of the karbanos that they brought, there were 140 lugin of wine and 140 lugin. In other words, 280 lugin total. 140 wine, 140 oil. that are brought on that day. So we'll say, so watch this. So you made a neder to the Beis Hamikdash of oil and wine, and I know I committed to something, but I don't remember how much. No problem. That'll be 140 lugin, sir. Right? That's the amount ultimately again that I am chayiv to the Beis Hamikdash in order to satisfy all possibilities. So we'll say, and that is indeed codified halacha. So we'll say, you understand the incredible musr in this. The incredible musr. Now again, I want to be clear. It's either or. It's 100. Meaning it was a total of 140 lugin of wine and 140 lugin of oil. So obviously, if you pledged wine, 140 lugin of wine. You pledged 140 lugin of oil. That's the maximum in order to be able to cover all potential possibilities. So we'll say the musr is clear and self-evident, which is, it's not just chachamim hizaru b'divreichem. Every person has to be careful with their words. That's the musr of Rabbi will say. That ultimately, again, a person says things that are not clear. A person says things without thinking them through. A person says things, and I spoke that I don't even remember what it is that I said. So there are ramifications for that. There are repercussions for that. Therefore, again, halacha is teaching me this incredible musr of being careful with what I say and be cognizant of the words that pass through my lips. So again, same theme over here of people making pledges to the Beis Hamikdash, but not actively clarifying what they mean and leaving the door open for some level of ambiguity. So the Gemara says, Ola. Let's say a person says Ola. What's the problem with saying? See, it's interesting. Up until this point of time, we never would have thought that there's a problem with just saying Harei Alai Ola, right? But what's the problem with the Harei Alai Ola, as we're going to see? As you can imagine, what's the problem? There are many different. So number is not a problem, because remember, Harei Alai Ola means what? One. Otherwise, it's Olos. The problem is you could bring many different types of animals as an Ola. So we'll say, so the Shaila is, what does the vower mean when he says Harei Alai Ola? So Harei Alai Ola, Yavi Keves. He should bring a sheep. Rabbi Ben Azariah Omer Otor O Ben Yonah. Rabbi Azariah says no, not necessarily. I will say, meaning remember, in the Ola family, you could even bring a tar, Ben Yonah. You could bring pigeons, turtle doves. Right? So the Tanakama says you bring a keves, and ultimately Rabbi Azariah says no, you can even bring a bird. Perashti min habakar ve'ini odeh ma perashti. I know that I said I was going to bring an offering min habakar from the cow or cattle family, but I don't remember what member of the cow family I said. So yavi par ve'egel. You have to bring both a par and an egel. Mina behema. So also remember, in all of these cases, ultimately, look at Rashi for just a moment. Perashti echa mikarbanos habehema v'nedem perashti. So I'll say, so the issue over here is, in all of these cases, I know I articulated something, I'm just not sure what. So again, I will say, essentially what the Mishnah is going to say is no problem, but because you're not sure what you said, we're just going to have to obligate you to bring a number of different karbanos so as to be able to cover all of your bases. Mina behema. I will say, watch this. I said I was going to bring a karban mina behema from animals, right? So we'll say ve'in yodeh ma pirashti, but I'm just not sure which animal, which behema I said I was going to bring. No problem. Yavi par ve'egel ayil seir gidi vitala. Right? No problem. The only right. It's not a problem. I mean, it's not a problem for the Beis Hamikdash, right? So, but at the end of the day, you're going to essentially, if you say mina behema, so you have to bring every karban that biblically falls under the category, or under the umbrella of behema. Perashti ve'eni yodeh ma perashti. I know that I said the min. Rashi says min. Es hamin ve'ini yodeh min behema ve'min ha'of. So we'll say the issue here is as follows. You see, in the previous case, I said min behema. So okay, but I'm not sure what. Which behema? No problem. You said min behema, you're not sure which behema. Easy remedy, which is it's going to be a party, right? It's going to be a behema party, right? Just bring all of the behemos. What if I know that I pledged a karban, and I even know I said min behema min ha'of, but I'm not sure again if I said behema or oaf. Eni yodeh ma pirashti. Amud beis mosef aleim taru ben yonah. You bring all the behemoths plus what? Plus a couple of birds. Harei alai todo ushlamim. So we'll say next case. I said I hereby commit myself to a toda oshlamim. Now both say Rashi says o izeh. I'm not sure what I committed to. A toda or a shlamim. Yavi keves. ultimately, again, you bring a keves. Pirashti min abakar, v'ini yodeh ma pirashti. So we'll say, ultimately, again, I know that I went ahead and Rashi says, Pirashti, Todu shlamim ikala sapuki b'schar min hakevas. Listen to this. So I went ahead and I said, min abakar, I'm going to go ahead and satisfy my karbanik obligation min abakar, ve'ini yodeh ma pirashti. So we'll say, remember again, the cow family has many different members, and I know that I said, Pirashti min abakar, ve'ini yodeh ma pirashti. I know that I specified something from the cattle, from the cow family, but I'm not sure what. No problem. Yavi par upara, right? We'll say you have to bring a male and a female. Egel ve'egla, right? A young cow and a young calf as well. So we'll say, so again, essentially, if I committed min abakar, but I'm just not sure exactly, and I know I specified, so I just have to bring everything in order to satisfy all the possibilities. Min abahima. So ultimately, again, I know that I said mina behema, and I know that ultimately, again, I specified, but I don't remember what I specified. Yavi par upara, egel ve'egla, ayil urechila, seir useira, gedi ugedia, talav. So I say, I think you only make this mistake once, right? You mamish only make this mistake because it's actually. We'll say, by the way, you see, we just rattle off these names, but the expense here is incredible. The expense here is incredible, right? Didn't somebody Google this? How much like a calf costs? Was it Matt? Was it Menachem? Okay. So can you imagine that? So this is thousands of dollars for literally, again, just not being cognizant of what it is that you're saying. Harei shar. We'll say, if I say, I hereby take up now, we'll say, remember again, shar is easy. Why? In this shar means an ox. So shar yavihu unusacha b'manan. I will say, now what's interesting over here is as follows. In this case, the Mishnah is now transitioning a little bit. So up until now, what we were dealing with are cases of where I said either a grouping of animals, a type of animals, I didn't specify, or I did specify, but I didn't remember what I specified. So the Mishnah told me you have to bring a whole bunch of animals in order to satisfy all possibilities. But we'll say in this case, it's a little bit different. In this case, now we're transitioning to is clear in what I committed to. Harei alai shar. We will say the interesting part that we're dealing with now is that what? Halacha l'meisa, what's the minimum value of an animal that I have to bring? So harei alai shar, hu unesachav b'mana. So we'll say, so the halacha is, if I commit to bring myself a shar, so the minimum amount of money that I have to spend on that is a mana, includes the animal as well as the nesachim. Rashi says, Yava hu unesachim b'mana kach nisparish dina b'tar shebal peh. So we'll say, as we're going to see it, is that the minimum value for a shor offering, together with its wine libations, is a mana. Egel, let's say a person pledges an egel, Yavi hu unesachav b'chamesh. Ultimately, again, we'll say the minimum value of an egel, together with its wine libations, is 5 sloim. Ayil, person commits to bring in ayil. Yavihu nesachav b'shtayim. Ultimately, we'll say, what's the value of a ram offering? So the minimum ram offering is the ayil, and the nesachim is 2 sloim. Keves, sheep. Yavihu nesachav b'sela. Ultimately, again, the value of that offering has to be the lamb together with the libations at a sela. We'll say, listen to this case. Shor b'maneh. Let's say, we'll say in this case over here, I'm pledging a shor b'mana. That's the articulation I'm making. I hereby pledge to the Beis HaMikdash a shor that is worth a mana. Now, let's go back for just a moment. If you remember again, if you just say harei alai shor, what's the halacha? Mana. But that mana includes what? The nesachim. If I say shor b'mana, I pledge a shor worth a mana, then what will say? Yavi b'mana chutz min nesachav. So you will say, in this case over here, if I say shor mana, what I'm saying is, I'm committing to a shor that is valued at a mana independent of the nesachim. So the sum total of the carbon is going to be what? A mana plus the value of the nesachim. Egel b'chamish, we'll say, so it's just the same cases. But in this case over here, we'll say, instead of saying egel, before when I said egel, what? The halacha was the value of the carbon in its entirety. Entirety means what? Animal plus nesachim was going to be 5 sloim. If I just say egel b'chamish, yavi chamish chutz min nesachav, then I will say the value of the carbon is going to be what? Is going to be 5 sloim plus the cost for the libations. Ayil b'shtayim, I commit to bringing ayil for 2 slaim. Yavi b'shtayim chutz min nesachav. Then I will say the whole amount of the money goes to the value of the animal, and the nesachim is an add-on. Keves b'sela, if I commit to bringing a sheep worth a sela, yavi b'sela chutz min nesachav. Ultimately, again, I have to go ahead and bring a sheep that is worth a sela, independent of the nesachim. Shar b'maneh, but so listen to this interesting case. If I commit to bringing a shar worth a maneh, Vehevi shnayim b'maneh. So instead, I shvarim who together are worth a maneh lo yatsa. But I have not fulfilled my obligation. Now, so the logic over there is why? Because I committed to bringing one animal, one shar worth a maneh. The fact that I bring 2 shvarim, each worth half a maneh, I have not fulfilled my obligation. Va'afilu zeh b'maneh chasar dinar, v'zeh b'maneh chasar dinar. And even if each shar is in fact worth a maneh less a dinar, I still have not fulfilled my obligation, because halacha l'maisa I committed to go ahead and what? And bringing one shar that was worth a maneh. Similarly, shachar vehevi lavan, if I committed to bring a black shar, and instead I brought a white shar, or lavan vehevi shachar, or I commit to bring a white shar, and instead I bring a black shar, or similarly, gadol vehevi katan, I commit to bring a big shar, and instead I bring a little shar. What's the halacha Rabbi say in all of these cases? Lo yatsa. Halacha l'maisa, I'm not yotzei. Rabbi say, interestingly enough, katan vehevi gadol. What happens if I committed to bring a little shar, but instead I sharala, right? But instead I go ahead and I bring a big shar. What's the halacha? Yatsa. In that case, you're yotzei. Rabbi Amar, Rabbi says no, lo yotzei. Even in that case, Rabbi says you're not yotzei. So we'll see what the root of that machlokes is in just a moment. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyeh b'dvaro. So as it says the Gemara, v'lo pligi. What are we dealing with here? The Gemara says, we'll say, referring to the first case in the Mishnah. The first case in the Mishnah was, Hari alai ola. A person says, I hereby commit myself to bringing an ola. So the Tanakama says you have to bring a keves, you have to bring a sheep. And Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says you could even bring a bird. Otar o ben Yona. So it says the Gemara, v'lo pligi. They're not arguing Marki Asrei or Marki Asrei. I will say they are each reflecting their own local norms. Look at Rashi. First Rashi in the Gemara. Marki Asrei, Pasei de Tanakama, Guria Keves Me'of. Uba'asrei de Rabbi Elazar, Guria of Mekeves. So we'll say, here's what's interesting. What they're agreeing on is as follows. If someone says Harei alai ola, what they are committing to is what? They're committing to the, I don't want to say cheapest, right? The lowest value, right? The lowest value carbon. The lowest value carbon. So it's like, since the Rabban and Rabbi and the, I'm sorry, who is it? It's the Rabban and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah are actually not arguing. Instead of both say what they're saying over here is as follows. According to the Rabbanon, so in his locale, interestingly enough, a sheep was less expensive than a bird. So therefore, he said that if you go ahead and say Harei alai ola, you bring a keves. Apparently, again, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's locale, so a bird was less expensive ultimately again than a sheep, and therefore you go ahead and you bring that. So interestingly enough, no machlokes. They're agreeing in principle that if you say Harei alai ola, you are only committing yourself to bring the least expensive item. Good. Tan Rabbanan. I'll say here we go. Harei alai ola b'sela l'mizbeach. If I go ahead and I say, Harei alai ola b'sela l'mizbeach. So we'll say the verbiage over here is very important. So I'm saying over here, I hereby commit myself to an ola that is worth a sela. That's what I'm offering to the mizbeach. So what's the halacha? Yavi keves. The halacha is you bring a sheep. Why? She'in lecha davar shekarav b'sela gai mizbeach ala keves shekarav b'sela. Because it will say apparently there is nothing else that is valued at a sela that is offered up on the mizbech except for a keves. So we'll see exactly what this means. Perashti ve'eliyadeh perashti. But if I say Harei alai ola and I say I know that I articulated, Rashi says perashti eiza karban avi ve'eknenu b'sela. So we'll say, I know that I committed, I articulated what type of carbon I was going to bring, but what? I don't remember what I went ahead and committed to. Yavi mikol davar shekarav b'sela legabi mizbeach. So essentially, I will say, I look at anything that could be offered up for a sela, right? Look at anything that can be valued as a sela, and that's what I offered up. Perashti min abakar ve'liyodeh ma perashti yavi par ve'ega. Supposed to remember again, if a person said, I know that I committed to bringing something from the Bakar family. But what? I don't know what I articulated. So what is the halacha? Yavi par ve'egel. You bring a par and an egel. So the Gemara says, Amai. So why is this? V'laisi par mimanafshach. So we'll say, why doesn't he just bring a par either way? After all, so the Gemara says, remember, what is the Gemara saying? Or we'll say, see, if you say pirashti min abakar ve'eni odea, so me'eni odea, so what's the halacha? Yavi par ve'egel. Why don't you bring a par and an egel? Just let him bring a par, because we'll say, what's the halacha? Remember again, a par is larger than an egel. So why don't I just bring the par, and I've covered my bases no matter what? If I said a par, then what? Then I brought a par. And if I said an egel, then I brought something even bigger. So again, why shouldn't the par just cover all of the bases? Oh, so it says the Gemara, Hamani Rebbe. Rabbi say, whose opinion does this reflect? This is Rebbe. To Amar, Katan vehevi gadol lo yatsa. Both say this reflects the view of Rabbi. Rabbi is the last opinion quoted in the Mishnah. What did Rabbi say in the Mishnah? Rabbi said that halacha l'maisa, if you committed to bring, remember again, gadol, and instead you brought the katan, you're not yotze. So therefore, again, we'll say Rabbi would say that in this case you'd have to bring a par and an egel. Says Gemara, 1 second. Rebbe, if you're going to tell me that this reflects the view of Rebbe, Amos Seifa, look at the end of the Mishnah. Shar b'mana vehevi shnayim b'mana lo yatsa. Remember again, if I committed to bring a shar b'mana, and I ended up bringing 2 shvarim that collectively were worth a mana, I'm not yotze. V'afilu zeh b'mana chasar dinar, v'zeh b'mana chasar dinar. And similarly again, even if I brought 2 shvarim, and each were worth a dinar, right? Or I should say a mana less a dinar. In other words, it's very small, and I'm still not yotze. Similarly, shachar vehevi lavan vehevi shachar. If I committed to bring a shachar and instead I brought a lavan, or white and I committed to bring white and I brought black, gadol vehevi katan, or I committed to bring a large shar and I brought a katan, lo yatsa, katan vehevi gadol. But if I committed to bring a small shar and instead I brought a big one, yatsa, Rabbi Omer, lo yatsa. He says you're not yotze. Says I don't understand. Reisha v'seifa Rabbi. You're going to tell me then that the Reisha of the Mishnah and the Seifa of the Mishnah both reflect the view of Rebbe. Umitzi asar rabbanan. So we'll say just the way you're setting it up now is that the Reisha of the Mishnah is Rebbe. I'm sorry. The Reisha and the Seifa are Rebbe. Umitzi asar rabbanan. Does that? So we'll say generally when it comes to Mishnayos, we like setting Mishnayos up according to one opinion that flows through the entire Mishnah. The way you're setting this up now is that the Reisha and Seifa of this Mishnah are Rebbe, and the the Rabbanon, to which the Gemara says, yes, in Reisha v'Seifa Rebbe, umitzi asa Rabbanon. V'achi kamar, this is what it means to say, davar zeh machlokes Rebbe v'Rabbanon. So we'll say, indeed, the Gemara says, yes, we're going to set up the Reisha and Seifa like Rebbe, and the mitzias of the middle part of the Mishnah is going to be the Rabbanon, and this indeed is the point of contention, ultimately, between the Rabbanon and Rebbe. So we'll say, let's go right through with this a little bit. Or just do a few more lines. Tanan Hassam. Shishan linadava kineged mi. So we'll say, remember again, we spoke about this. First of all, just take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Davar zeh, sheshaninu yavi par ve'egel, lav divrei hakolhi, ela machlokis terebi v'rabbanan. So we'll say, remember again, so in this case, going back to the way we started, if you go ahead in the case where I said, parashti min bakar, I said that I know that I articulated to bring a carbon from the Bakar family. So what does the Mishnah say? Ve'ini yodeh ma parashti, and I don't know what I committed to do. So what's the halacha? Yavi par ve'egel. We both say that case, I should bring a par. That case is a machlokes, the Rabbanon and Rebbe. Why? Because according to the Rabbanon, we'll say, what should I have to bring? All I have to bring is what? Is the par, is the bigger one. Because once I bring the bigger one, I'm good. Just like the Rabbanon say that if I committed to bring a gadol animal, a katan animal, and instead I brought a gadol, what's the halacha? I'm yotze. So I will say, so too if I bring the param enough, Rabbi is the one who says no, that Allah Chalmais essentially you always have to bring what you committed to bring. So therefore, even if you say I articulated to bring something from the par family, but I have to bring a par and an egel to satisfy all possibilities, just like Rabbi who says that if you committed to bring a katan and you brought a gadol, you're not yotze. So that machlokes I will say still remains. Next, Tanan supposed to say just 2 more minutes and then we'll stop. Tanan Hassam, Shisha Linedava Kineged Mi. Rabbi will say there were 6 collection boxes in the Beis HaMikdash. This is going back to our Shkalim days, as Rashi quotes. 6 collection boxes. In reality, there were 13 collection boxes. 7 of them, Rashi points out, were clearly marked for certain things. Rashi goes through the list. 6 of them, Rabbosai, seem to be additional. Why did we have these 6 additional collection boxes? Keneged me. Amr Chizkiah, Keneged Shisha Batei Avos HaKohanim. Rabbosai, these corresponded to the Shisha Batei Avos, to the 6 primary families who served in the Beis HaMikdash each and every week. Right? Remember, again, there were shifts of Kohanim, 24 Mishmoros, 6 Batei Avos, right? Ultimately, again, you have 6 Kohanic families serving in the Beis HaMikdash every week. 6 tzedakah boxes corresponded to these 6 families. Ultimately, again, Chazal went and instituted that there should be 6 collection boxes, each of them corresponding to one of the Kohanic families, that there should be shalom amongst the Kohanic families. Look at Rashi. Keneged Shisha Batei Avos, Shekol Mishmar Chaluk L'Shisha Batei Avos, Keneged Shisha Yemei HaShavua, Zeh Oved Yomo, V'zeh Oved Yomo, Ub'Shabbos Kulan Shabbos. So remember again, the way it worked in the Beis HaMikdash is that each week there was a different mishmar, there was a different Kohanic grouping. Each of those the grouping was split up into 6 families. Each family got its own day to work in the Beis HaMikdash. On Shabbos, they all worked together. They all work together. So we'll say, so Rashi says, Kadesh Shihu Shalom Ze'im. Rashi says, Sha'oros Shal Behemos, Hanichos Menachos, Hayulukan. So we'll say, we're going to see these 6 additional tzedakah boxes were funds in which Nidava funds were put into. Now the halacha is, on a karban Nidava, what happens? The meat is offered up on the Mizbeach, and the hide is taken by the Kohanim. In order that there should not be any machloksim amongst the Kohanim, there were 6 different Nidava tzedakah boxes. Why 6 different Nidava tzedakah boxes? So each Kohanic family should have its own ma'os Nidava, which by definition guarantees them what? Meat and hides. Remember again, Abba said this is part of one of the ways in which Kohanim got their parnasa, from the meat of karbanos and from the hides of karbanos. This way, in order that no one's sharing, everyone gets their own tzedakah box, therefore assured of their own funds. Because remember again, Abba say, if it's one tzedakah box, and let's say the Kohanim who serve on Monday, there's a heavy flow of traffic, they could deplete it by Tuesday. This way again, everyone gets their own box, everyone gets their own pushka, so to speak, from which they bring karbanos nedava. From those karbanos nedava, also called Ketzim Mizbeach, the dessert of the Mizbeach, from those nedavos, ultimately again they get the meat as well as the hides. So it says the Gemara, let's just read a few more lines. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, mitoch shanadava meruba, tiknu lahem shofros merubin, kadesh leis apshamo. So we'll say, we're going to now see a multi-form machlokes. Ultimately, again, why they had all these pushkas. So we'll say, remember again, so there are 13 in total. The first 7 are clearly marked for different needs in the Beis HaMikdash. The shaila is, what do you do with the remaining 6? So the first opinion says, the remaining 6, corresponding to 6 Kohanic families, they were used for ma'os nedava, and this way every Kohanic family can be assured of karbanos nedava. Rabbi Yochanan says no, because, we'll say, listen to this, because so many donations poured into the Beis HaMikdash, we were concerned, we need extra pushkas. Why extra shofros? Why? So we'll say it's actually very interesting. I guess it's a result of ultimately, again, the way they made their coins. I guess also being made of precious metals. If you had too many coins sitting together, the coinage rots. I guess because there's no airflow. I don't know what the metzias is. But in order to ensure that there's no rotting of the coinage, we establish more pushkas, more shofros. Therefore, again, Abba say they have the ability to spread out the coins in order that the air flows all around the coinage. So we'll stop over here for today. We're going to pick up Emirat Hashem with the additional meanings of the shofros and ultimately tie back to the Mishnah, Mishnah Tov Mitzlachas tomorrow.